Hey, shalawam, yashala. Peace be unto the nation of Israel, whom are your modern-day so-called negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and speckled-bird Israelites, whom are the Israelite foreigners scattered across the four corners of the earth, including America, Babylon the Great, and you are the Most High Yahawah's chosen people of the nation of Israel. So without further ado, as always, just want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honor to my power, YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, barak, which is all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahawah, in the name of His only begotten and anointed Son, Yahawashi, and the Holy Spirit, whom is our strength and our Redeemer, and our light and our salvation. And with that, Mashana Kabuadim Lahasakwanim Shalagalabaraka, which is double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, the true shepherds of Israel, pushing the sound doctrine of faith, truth, and sincerity. And Shalom, honors and salutations to Bayasha Dawada, which is the house of David, representing the elect of the nation of Israel, whose name is written in the holy book of life for salvation. From the Lord YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI's terrible judgment through his plagues in these last days. And that includes 144,000 governing body and the rest of the 1/3 elect men, women, and children of Israel. And this your fellow servant, Malak Rayab. She's back at it again with another video through the spirit of prophecy, being a testimony of our Lord and Savior, Hamashiach Yahawashi, whom the master of the world ignorantly referred to Jesus Christ, through another edition of this World War III algorithm simulation going on. All right. About on behalf of this devil Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, and his attempt to engineer global reset through the control of the earth's natural resources, commodities, including on behalf of these nations, which is going to further uncover the topics of this edition of this World War III video, including the reintroduction of cyber Polygon, which I mentioned in just about every World War III algorithm video, along with the United Snakes of America, currently losing this thermonuclear arms race, and NATO threatening Russia, okay, and which comes as a further response or counteraction to Russia ending their diplomatic ties with NATO, man, and that's very key, components of these secular news events that we're hearing these last days. It's gonna further introduce these devils, rollout of the Charagma, or the MOTB, which is going to bring us into the brink of this last world's war. Okay, in regards to the lasciviousness and covetousness of these heathen nations, and the lowest of all of them, Edomites, going to war over these resources for the sake of power. Okay, the carnal temptations of this earth. All right, it's going to be the demise of these heathen nations, man. So I'm going to bring out some information here and preface this lesson off of the reintroduction of what you see on the screen, which is cyber Polygon, which is the quote-unquote clues to the elite's next pandemic, okay, and how they're engineering this collapse, all right, to which is going to further, lead into these last two major prophecies. So Adam and Ratazah, this is further edifying, exhorting to elect who come across this, this video. So it says here, dealing with the introduction of cyber Polygon, it says, the Great Reset is a plan of action by Davos billionaires to collapse our entire economic, political, and social order. It says the Great Reset is an outgrowth of Agenda 21, United Nations comprehensive program, ostensibly to achieve social, economic, and environmental sustainability. The Great Reset is not set in stone. We the people have the blah, blah, blah. All right. So they, and that comment right there goes against the scriptures. So we the people have power to stop it. Well, like it says in Proverbs, the 16th chapter, man's goings of the Lord. So if you're not a man of the Lord, then the Lord is not going to use you as a righteous vessel to further tear down the strongholds and stumbling blocks of this devil's wicked satanic agenda. That's a hidden counsel spoken about in Isaiah the 29th chapter that's going to fail, because YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI is going to disappoint this devil, prophesied in Job the 20th chapter, regarding the wicked intentions of the satanic council. All right. So it says here, Cyber Polygon 2021 is a live exercise simulation to repel a supply chain attack on a large corporation by some rogue state. Okay. Among the world's banking cognoscenti, the believed, if not hoped for, end result would be to crash a global financial system. Okay. And ultimately, man, that's to, to usher in the prelude to the CBDC, which is currently in the present works of, making this these global economies cashless societies, man. all right, which is why the EU and NATO heavily involved in this agenda, because that's a beast of the whore. Okay, the 10 toes of the beast empire prophesied the book of Daniel, all right, being the European conglomerates of America. Okay, and how this agenda is going to further backfiring on them, further causing division. Okay, the fruits of the flesh. Okay, including contention, strife, and that's ultimately going to cause these devils to fight amongst themselves, and we're already seeing that. So, said G7 finance ministers agreed to work together to address global supply chain pressures. So the chancellor has welcomed an agreement from G7 finance ministers to work together to monitor supply chain pressures as a global economy rebounds from the pandemic. Says during a meeting hosted by Chancellor Rishi Sunak in Washington, D.C., G7 finance ministers and central bank governors have agreed to work together to monitor global supply chain pressures. Now, jumping down here to the point, G7 finance ministers and central bank governors also launched a report setting out public policy principles for issuing central bank digital currencies, a digital version of money that, if introduced, could be used alongside physical notes and coins. All right. And that's why they're engineering this global collapse. All right. To end this fractional, to ultimately end this fractional debt-based currency known as a Federal Reserve note or dollar bill, because going back to when these devils, these international bankers, all right, created this fake money, all right, to print and use these commercial banks, to quote unquote lend this money to these so-called governments, all right. It was to further control the world, all right, based off of the idea of phony money, fake money, with interest attached to it, so they can reenact what they did in Rome, by introducing the idea of controlling the people through debt-based currencies, man. You see, they did the same thing in the time of Nero, Nero Caesar, when they took the metals of gold and silver to create lesser metals such as bronze and copper, to further control the masses, with debt-based currencies. And they're doing the same thing now with the dollar bill, the petrodollar. And that's further why this petrodollar is being further depreciated on the global markets, and that's further causing, nations like China, okay, which is drank off the wine of, it's been made drunk off the wine of fornication, modern day Western philosophy of America, taking a page out of America's book and doing the same thing to further what? Destroy this earth with the satanic council, man. Okay, this wine of fornication. Hence, that's why China, China has 165 nations in debt to them, of about $385 billion, man, on behalf of these Chinese entities, all right, and industries, including the China, the China's Belt and Road Initiative, okay, which is further increasing the debt on the earth to further justify their agenda to collapse these economies, introduce the Charagma, man, so they can implant everybody with the device. This is what this is all about, man. This is part of a wicked, twisted, demented plot, to control everybody, to control the whole damn world, man, including these other nations. And that's the ironic thing about it, because these nations, these top sovereign nations, they're in on it too, but just not in totality. And that's what's going to further cause them to go to war. Okay. So digressing back to this, to the article, it says this builds on action being taken at home to ease the supply chain issues through temporary visas and support for businesses as they transition towards a high-scale, high-wage economy through skills, boot camps, and the government's 130% super deduction for capital investment. So what's that quote-unquote high-wage economy that was mentioned here? Let's go, all right, let's go ahead and, further uncover that in this other article. All right, it's a similar article dealing with the Charagma update, because this is what this is all about, okay? Total control. Okay, which are using within the constituents of science, politics, commerce, of their economic sector, including supply and supply and demand being negatively affected by this biological warfare. Okay, and that's why Dr. Fauci just got further exposed, over his inconsistencies with the scientific aspect of this agenda, because they're, like it says in Psalm 15:5. Okay, when you're using usury, on behalf of this petrodollar, okay, the main currency that people are using, these nations are using, all right, in a sense of international trade, Okay, the wickedness behind that agenda would further, it would further contradict your agenda. Okay, with controlling the world, because wickedness is behind it. All right. So in this article here, it's on in the finance section of Yahoo. All right, Yahoo Finance. It says implants on behalf of Business Wire, Salakia. It says implants dealing with the Charagma, AI, and the no cash generation. Will payments in 2030 be a dystopia or utopia? On behalf of Marquetta, this new industry here, says study explores the future of payments from embedding ethics into transactions to whether machine learning will make financial education redundant. Okay. So it says, and this was a couple of days ago down there in London on October 21st, another part of their wicked satanic councils / meetings they have. Okay. Prophesied in Isaiah the 29th chapter. It goes on to say, today, Marquetta, the global modern card issuing platform, announced the launch of its new industry study conducted in partnership with Consult Hyperion, the European payments landscape in 2030, implants, embedded ethics, and a post-payments world. You see that? Examining the potential issues and innovations that may emerge in the next decade of payments. So it goes on down here to say, it suggests that innovations in AI and biometrics could change the way we live, but the social and ethical implications may need to be carefully managed to ensure equality of opportunity for all. And what's that opportunity they're talking about? He's going to mention it here. Let me go ahead and find it. All right. I'm going to jump down here a little bit. All right, because he's going to mention the Charagma. All right. So right here, yep. Tribes and implants. By 2030, tribes and influencers may play a key role in driving payment adoption. We are already seeing the start of this, with companies using social influencers to get its brand out. Many consumers already seem willing to embrace futuristic payment methods, with 51% of consumers surveyed saying they would consider using a Charagma implant to pay. And that's prophesied in Revelation, the 13th chapter, verses 16 on down, man. So we're living within that time, man. All right. These devils getting ready to push the chip out. All right. The Charagma. Okay. And by way of how they're going to do that is going to further cause a rift. All right. And, further contention and strife amongst these other sovereign nations and other nations. Okay. By looking to control their resources and commodities as well. Okay. Because going back to the 1913 Federal Reserve Act, when it was signed into authority, it was to officially create the Federal Reserve System to control the people through a debt-based currency. And that's what the petrodollar is being used for. But now when you have China looking to abandon, cryptocurrency down there, okay, and then, you have these other top sovereign nations like Russia relying on their own currency, like the Russian ruble and so forth, that's further depreciating the value of a debt-based currency that was destined to fall anyway. So that this further means that this devil, Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, and his wicked satanic council has backfired on him, okay? And his quest to remain the whore above, amongst these other waters, these other nations, these other governments, okay? And remain the wicked covering cast over the entire earth, like it says in Isaiah 25:7. And that's what's going to further lead into this last world's war, which is why you just had China test off a couple of hypersonic missiles, which I'm about to go ahead and get into. Okay, you just had Russia test a hypersonic missile back on October 4th. Okay, you just had Russia consider China's most recent successful hypersonic missile test, as a quote unquote invincible weapon. You see, because why? That further goes into why the U.S. or how and why the U.S. is losing its arms race, man, which I'm about to further get into over their quest of power, okay, over the earth. So to go on and say here, that's pretty much the point. All right. So that is just to introduce the Charagma. It says here, AI and embedded ethics. Consumers' love of convenience may see spending controls handed over to AI-powered smart wallets, which is why the EU, introduced the idea of the digital wallet. Okay. Which are going into the ideology of the Charagma, the convenience aspect of the miracles prophesied in Revelation, the 16th chapter. Okay, through their technology, their science, their politics, and how they would use that to cause the masses to wander after them, after their perceived light. Okay, their insight, which is why these devils refer to themselves or referred to as the Illuminati. Okay, because they're gonna like it says in 2 Corinthians 4:4, how the minds of the masses will be blinded by this light, this sensual devilish light, spoken about in St. James 3:15. And that's why the Lord is putting out the light from his candle, his wickedness. Okay. And by way of the wicked intentions on what they're doing with this agenda. All right. So, yeah, so it says consumers love convenience may see spending controls handed over to AI-powered smart wallets making automated decisions on everything from selecting the cheapest way to pay to the most ethical. And so jumping down here, there is already some appetite for this, with 31% of 18 to 24-year-olds respondents saying they would be comfortable with AI making automated decisions on their behalf to choose the most ethical way to pay. You see, and that goes into Operation Lockstep. Okay. Another aspect or component of the cyber Polygon I'm about to further go into, and how these people, the masses, have bought into this agenda. Case in point, when Beto O'Rourke, the pastor politician down here, was saying he's pushing the agenda of the National Rifles Association to confiscate people's guns, to render them helpless, to make this resistance against their satanic NWO, less resistant, for lack of better words. People were buying into that, you see, because people trust in oppression. They trust in modern day Egypt, the bondage, which has been presented as liberty, you see, and that's what's going to befall the masses, man. Okay, because this is going to further result in sedition amongst men when people find out, prophesied in 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, how they've been lied to, 2nd Ezra 15 and 16, and that's going to further cause them to put, go up against these governments with war in their mind. Okay. And it's gonna be a full-fledged war, okay? Going into the economic component of their wicked agenda, controlling the resources, the commodities, and whatnot, okay? Going back to World War II, all right, when they were doing the same thing, putting tariffs on goods, imports and exports, all right, with the idea, of protecting their domestic goods from foreign competition. All right, and generating more revenue from those tax imports and exports, and that's the same thing they're doing with North Korea, same thing they're doing with China, Iran. You see, and it's backfiring on them. You see, because now, case in point, if I jump back into the cyber Polygon outline, it reminds me of this here. Let me get it. It says here, foreignpolicy.com. How will Moscow use its energy leverage over Europe? See. Because now you have, Russia, okay, leading through this gas giant Gazprom, all right, over 35% of the EU's gas imports down there, okay, and about 43% of the oil being distributed down there in Europe. You see, so. That goes into the whole idea of why NATO was invented by these devils. Okay, regarding the interests of the United States of America and Britain. Okay, to rival Russia, to defeat Russia. Okay, and that's why Russia understands that history, and they have ended the diplomatic ties with NATO, and that's why NATO is threatening Russia with war, which I'm about to go into. Because they're losing their leverage, man. Geopolitically, economically, okay, militarily, especially, in regards to the U.S. losing this arms race, okay, which is why here it says, hey, man, it's beautiful. Everything just is interconnected through the spirit. It says latest U.S. military hypersonic test fails. This was yesterday. See that? Hey, man, these devils are finished, man. Okay. Says here, North Korea tests a possible submarine missile amid tensions with the U.S. Okay. NATO agrees master plan to deter growing Russian threat. Prepares for simultaneous attacks, including nuclear and cyber. Officials and diplomats say no such attack is imminent. Russia denies any warlike intentions. See that? Says NATO defense ministers agreed on a master plan on Thursday to defy or defend against any potential Russian attack on multiple fronts, reaffirming the alliance's core goal of deterring Moscow despite a growing focus on China. And why is there a growing focus on China? Because China is taking the economic leverage from America. Okay, and they have the most formidable navy on earth. Okay, and that's why when you actually view the arms race, at this point, it goes into how these devils are behind. Okay, right here you see these devils on behalf of the whore Babylon the Great are behind Russia. Okay, they're 5,800 thermonuclear warheads to Russia's 6,375 thermonuclear warheads. You see? So this is all a war over resources that you see here. World War II dealing with the secular history of the tariffs and the sanctions that they're still placing on their foreign competition now, and sovereign competition as well. It says at the end of World War II, tariffs were decreased substantially. Now after the fact, now this is a part of Esau dry snitching on himself, man. Prophesied in Psalm 64:8. You see, and the U.S. went on to lead the formation of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. This was a precursor to the World Trade Organization, which has sought to promote the reduction of tariff barriers to world trade. And that was a further push out the idea of free trade, which is a farce. Because if that was the case, why is there a war over natural resources such as oil, going into the oil crisis down there in China, dealing with the coal mining crisis, down there in the UK, dealing with the crude oil crisis or the gas shortages, down there in Venezuela, dealing with both? Because that's ultimately coming to North America, Babylon the Great, man. Okay, Babylon the Great as a whole. All right, because because of the covetousness and the lasciviousness of this devil, further causing riffraff, man, and global tensions. And that's what further confirms that this is the time which we're living in, war. Okay, because these nations are getting ready to go at it. Okay, because they're not mutually on one accord. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 3, starting at verse 1. It says, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven." Okay, and that season is these last few prophecies coming to pass, man. Let me go ahead and get a quick precept on that. St. Luke chapter 21, verse 25. And it reads, "And there shall be signs in the sun," or ensigns spoken about in 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter, to further indicate that we be living these perilous times, these last days, like our Lord and Master Hamashiach Yahawashi prophesied to us well over 2,000 years ago when he was on the scene during the pagan Roman Empire, in which America is a splitting image of the empire coming back. Okay, pursuing Revelation, the 13th chapter. Hence why in Revelation, the 1st chapter, around the 7th verse, it says how Yahawashi is going to destroy those who personally pierced him. Which further confirms America is Rome all over again, which further confirms that this place is destined for destruction. And these last few major prophecies will confirm that it's going to come sooner than later, because it's not a righteous empire. Okay, St. Luke 21 and 25, "And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars." Dealing with the constellation of stars, showing these strange wonders, such as blood moons and lunar eclipses and whatnot that we've been seeing within these past seasons over and over again, and it's going to continue to happen. It says, "And upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring." Now, why are these nations distressed? Okay, over the madness of the drunkenness off of this wine of fornication spoken about in Jeremiah 51 and 7. Okay, being in that uproar. Okay, being in that state of frenzy. When you look into the Hebrew word for mad. Okay, in that Jeremiah 51 and 7. Or going into the effects of these nations indulging in the Western philosophies of America to further support their sovereignty. Okay, getting in bed with the whore, Babylon the Great. Okay, and how is it backfiring on them? Okay, let's go ahead and get this word here for perplexity. Okay, so going into prophecy, how these nations are going to go to war. Let's get the root Greek word here for aporia. Okay, so aporiho says to be without resources, to be in straits. You see, and why these nations in straits? Okay, dealing with these resources being compromised by America by way of tariffs. Okay, going into taxes on imports and exports. Okay, because there's an origin to everything, man. That's why back in 1832, the Kentucky Senator Henry Clay introduced something called the Defense of the American System. And through that immoral decree / satanic policy, okay, there was something introduced called the protective tariff. And that's why they use tariffs now in trade wars, because throughout the course of time, trade wars would always transition and incite. It would always transition, or in this case, these trade wars would always incite the transition of trade wars to actual full-fledged war. Okay, nothing's new under the sun, man. Like it says in Ecclesiastes, the 1st chapter. So those protective tariffs were to protect the quote-unquote private industries, man. Okay, from foreign competition and generate more revenue from these so-called tax imports and exports. And another part of those immoral decrees and policies under something called the Article 1 in Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution, it confirmed by stating that Congress had the authority to collect those taxes and pay debts, okay, to further fund the national security and pay off the debts of this debt-based currency system, which is modernly known as the petrodollar, man. All right, or the fractional reserve banking note that they use as a petrodollar in exchange for crude oil and other natural resources within the global markets. Okay, but that's further backfiring on them. Going to the idea of the whole cyber Polygon situation, the whole simulated exercises they have been using to engineer this global reset, man. And that's further backfiring on them and causing shameful spewing to befall their glory, like it's prophesied in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 16. You see? And this whole that whole defense of the American system through the protective tariff policy to control the quote unquote private industries, okay, was also referred to recently as a private sector. Let's go ahead and get into that. Okay. And this is why they're going to go to war. Okay. It's inevitable because it's all prophesied here. Okay. Now I'm going to get that article dealing with this devil here. So this is on newstarget.com. Okay. It says economic errorism. U.S. Treasury says store shelves will remain empty until everyone gets snake bited for the pestilence. Says Wally Adeyemo, Sleepy Creepy Joe's pick for the second highest office in the Treasury Department, is threatening Americans with prolonged shortages and empty store shelves until every last person is fully snake bited for the pestilence. In order to save lives, quote unquote, Adeyemo has indicated that he is willing to end all 330 million of them in this country if the remaining snakebite holdouts continue to refuse to roll up their sleeves. Okay? Proving that the shipping container crisis is completely manufactured for political purposes. The Biden regime is basically threatening to starve out America until there is 100% compliance with Operation Warp Speed. You see that? So these devils are behind this, man. It's not about, like, even my man, what's his name? Rand Paul said when he was coming against Fauci Ouchie, when he said, listen, this dude is a fraud, man. This science that he so-called believes in, he's just using it as a further means for power. I see, and that further confirms that these Edomites are divided amongst themselves, man, because they're wicked and corrupt, man. Vile and profane, prophesied in Hebrews, the 12th chapter. You see, and that's why in Sirach, the 10th chapter, prophesies how this world is going to be destroyed. Esau's world, that is, pursuing 2 Peter, the 3rd chapter. Okay, where he's going to be replaced by a profitable king and righteousness, the counselor of peace, I believe it is. In Isaiah, the 9th chapter, it speaks about that. Isaiah 9, verses 6 and 7. That's talking about the Messiah, YAHAWAH. And that's why in Revelation 11:15, it says how he's going to subdue all these heathen nations under his dominion, where the earth will be at peace. When the Israelites are ruling again, man, so-called Negro, Latino, Native American Indians, when our King and our Lord and Savior, the Bishop and Shepherd of our souls, returns, man. Okay? And that's why I say Matthew 24, he prophesied that. Okay? I'm going to get that real quick. Salakia. Say Matthew 24 and 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. And we're seeing that now. Now you got what's the other one out now? What's it called? Salmonella, whatever you call it. Now you got that out. You got that and floating around in the news headlines now. You see, to incite fear in the masses, to rely on the science and technology of Esau, Edom. That's why the nanotechnology of the snake bite has something called it has some matter of fact. Let me go ahead and get that real quick. Salakia. Let me go ahead and bring that information out. There's something in it that goes back to the Greeks. Okay, I'm going to bring that out. Okay, because that goes back to the pagan Greco-Holy Roman Empire, man, and the vibration of their agenda. You know, in a numerical sense, prophesied in Revelation 13 and 18, and that's why in the presidential campaign, the elder Yahshawamba brought this out, where the E and Biden's name in the presidential campaign is highlighted in red. Why is that? Because that letter E in his name that was highlighted in red specifically for spiritual reasons, to further push out the vibration of the pagan Greco-Holy Roman Empire, because that E, all right, synonymous with the Greek alphabet Xi, okay, which you go into the sequence 60 of the number 666. You see that? So we're not ignorant of these devil devices, man. Okay, and we're becoming less ignorant by the day, like it says in the book of in Apocrypha, to be not ignorant of a small thing or a little thing. Okay. So let me go ahead and let me see if I can bring that out real quick. Because there's some information on that dealing with the what's in the nanotechnology of the sharat, of the snake bite, and how they're afraid of using that to destroy people. Okay. Let me see if I could find that real quick. All right. Because these strongholds and stumbling blocks are being torn down like never before. Okay. But it's not gonna be for very much longer, because this devil's going down. He's being exposed. Okay. Let me see if I could find it. Matter of fact, I found it. Let me see. I believe I found it. Let me see. Salakia. And if not, then I'll just go ahead and move forward. But let me see if I can bring this out. Because there's something in the snake bite. Okay. There's something in it. If I can't find it, man, I'll just move on. But that's through the spirit. Yep, Hydra. Yep. Through the spirit, man. It's called Hydra. It's lucky for the duration of time, but hey, man, the spirit permitted me to find it. So you look that up, man. Okay. So you look it up. Hydra. It's a self-replicating organism in a snake bite. Right, and you look that up. It goes back to a Greek goddess. You know what I'm saying? A Greek goddess by the name of Hydra. Let's go and look that up real quick. Okay, and further expose the vibration of their agenda. You see, that's through the spirit. Let me look that up real quick. Hydra. Let me see. Hydra, a many-headed serpent in Greek mythology. Okay, and it's what these Greeks worship, along with the Romans and dealing with Roman mythology. See that? This is an organism that is in a snake bite right here, man. Can't make this stuff up. There's a so-called gene or organism in a snake bite. So why is this organism named after Greek mythological or Greek, a pagan Greco-Roman creature that they reverenced during that time? Okay, symbolic of a snake, a serpent. You see that? You see, because this devil Esau, Edom, is that serpent prophesied in Revelation, the 12th chapter. Okay, the old serpent called the devil and Satan, that's going to be met by YAHAWASHI and angels to destroy him in his last world's war. And that's why Reagan in 1983 had spoke about an extraterrestrial force coming to threaten him. And he's talking about YAHAWASHI. These devils know what time it is, man. And they know they have but a short time to usher in their agenda. You see? So I just wanted to do the spirit. I just wanted to bring that out real quick. But yeah, man, we here, man. Okay? We're hearing rumors of wars and wars. Okay? We're hearing it. Matter of fact, I'm going to get into that. Then with the U.S. arms race. Bring out some more priests. Let's get China. Now, China's heavily involved in this last World War. It says here on Telegraph, we have no idea how they did this. Secret hypersonic launch shows China streaking ahead in arms race. China's test of a hypersonic missile in space is a game changer that should fundamentally alter the U.S.'s calculations about Beijing's military leverage. Experts have warned. So this devil is, this devil is finished, man. When in Habakkuk 2:16, it speaks about how shameful spewing would befall his glory. Hey, man, the scriptures mean what they say. You see, we're seeing this devil fall like never before. Okay, because of his pride, he thought he would never fall. Okay, so it says, over the weekend emerged that the Chinese military in August secretly launched a rocket carrying its hypersonic glide vehicle into space, which flew around the globe through low orbit space before returning to Earth. Okay. Says, while the missile reportedly missed its target by about 24 miles, the test shows China has made rapid progress on the lightning-fast weapons and is far more advanced than U.S. intelligence officials had realized, according to the Financial Times, which broke the story. And that's why their missile test failed. Going back to this right here. Latest U.S. military hypersonic test fails. Failed, man. The U.S. suffered a setback in a race with China and Russia to develop hypersonic weapons when its latest test failed, the Pentagon said in a statement Thursday. You can read the rest of this for yourself. But the point has been made. President has been set, man. This devil is finished, man. So I'm going to go back to the prophecy, Salakia. St. Matthew 24 and 27. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Okay, so going back to St. Luke 21 and 26. It says, men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Who are the powers of the heavens being shaken? All right, the rulers of the darkness of this world, the throne of iniquity. Okay, of the power of the Edomite confederacy, the authority of the world, the wicked covering cast of the earth, okay? All right, of his heaven, his rulership, okay? And why are they going to be in fear? Because of this. Revelation 16:21, going into this last world's war, okay? It was going to be a war between the realms, not just a war between the nations. Revelation 16:21, and there fell upon a great hail, and there fell upon men a great hail out of heaven, every stone about the weight of a talent. And we look up the Greek word for talent. It goes into the scale of balance or the measure of something, and the measure of this stone spoken about dealing with these ICBM missiles. All right, these thermonuclear ICBM missile warheads. Okay, it goes into the measure of these stones or these missiles of a ton in modern day times, because that is the weight of these missiles. It's about a ton, which is 2,000 pounds. So that goes into the fear that will befall, that will cause men's hearts to fail, to cause people to have heart attacks, man. When they see these heavy weapons, these missiles, all right, floating around the atmosphere, all right, within the ozone layer, okay, getting ready to detonate and unleash that fire upon this earth, man. Okay, because it's a thermonuclear fire behind these weapons going to cause that great fear. But now, before that fire is unleashed from these weapons, just a sight of these things, these weapons of indignation, prophesied in Isaiah the 54th chapter of YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, the man of war, is going to cause men's hearts to fail them, including the men in these armies of the sovereign nations and the nations of the world that will commence in warfare amongst themselves, man, over a battle of power. Okay, not well-being, which is a facade they're pushing. Okay, through this biological warfare they're inflicting upon people to take the snake bite. Okay, to present the idea of helping somebody, when really you're doing the exact opposite. And that's the devil for you. It's Esau, Edom for you. So it says, and there fell upon men a great hail out of heaven, every stone about the weight of a talent, and men blasphemed the Most High because of the plague of the hail. For the plague thereof was exceeding great. You see? So these nations, man, they getting ready to go to war, man. Point blank period. Okay? Because Babylon cannot be healed. and their weapons are going to destroy this place. Really, the weapons of YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, they're going to use these nations to destroy America in these last days. Babylon the Great. Isaiah 13:4. The noise of a multitude in the mountains like as of a great people. A tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord Yahweh of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. See? And that's what we're seeing now. So going back to, the events, the simulated events is going to transpire. They're transpiring as we speak before this war completely commences, man. Okay? Because the war is a drawn out process. It doesn't just happen overnight. We would like it to, but in our patience, we can possess our souls. Okay, and trusting in YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, that He will eventually end this devil's rulership. So going back to cyber Polygon. So simulation is an imitation of a real world process or event. They are role playing exercises such as war games through the military, which we're hearing about right now through these rumors of wars prophesied in St. Matthew 24:6. Okay. Including the likes of China, NATO, Russia, okay, Iran. Matter of fact, to the spirit. This is key as well, because Iran, the biblical Edomites, all right, are in preparation of warfare against the Amalekites. Okay, the chief, the Dukes of Edom, okay, leading this Edomite confederacy. So it's here at ZeroHedge.com. It says Israel, the state of Israel, the Amalekites, resumes practicing military attacks on Iran after 2-year pause. The Israeli Air Force has resumed after a 2-year pause what is being described as intense drills to practice attacking Iran's nuclear sites, a move that likely would start a major war. See? So they initially tried to use America to attack Iran. That goes into why DJ Trump was used to rescind from the 2015 JCPOA Iran nuclear deal that Obama, the Hamite, had signed during his presidency back in 2015. Okay. For Iran to agree with limiting the uranium intake to create thermonuclear weapons, by basically allowing, Esau, Edom to dictate their sovereignty. And they agreed to it, essentially, when you look into the terms of that agreement. And that had backfired on them because they got backstabbed. Like it says in Psalm, the 55th chapter, Esau is a covenant breaker, man. Okay. And they who've entrusted in him are putting their hands against him. Like it says in the book of Obadiah, roughly paraphrasing, because he is a devil. He cannot be trusted. Okay. As iron resteth, so is his wickedness. You can trust, you can trust in that, with the self-proclaimed white man. There's nothing righteous about him. That's why his name itself, Esau, is a very name prediction. Wasted away is he, in every sense of the word. Wasted away in his spirit, which is why Hebrews, the 12th chapter, speaks how he is vile and profane. Okay, wasted away in his pigmentation, which is why he's the only nation that has leprosy on the planet. That's not a coincidence, man, because this man is a devil, man, and he's destroying the earth through a satanic council, and that much more further, but on behalf of nations that are further spreading the vibration of this council, such as China, in an economic sense, for example. Okay, and that's what's gonna. Hey, man. So it's just a matter of time. All right. So just wanted to bring that out real quick. Going back to cyber Polygon, says they are role playing exercises on behalf of cyber Polygon simulated exercises, including war games, military drills, sports teams, okay, political plotting, and dealing with drills and sports team. That's why they have a lot of these celebrity Jake athletes pushing a snake bite, prefer to push and control opposition, like Andrew Wiggins, Kyrie, the Sly Irvin, which that dude is a damn puppet of the wicked elite, throwing that Masonic hand gestures and the whole nine. He got exposed, man. When you watch that video, like a short clip I uploaded about a week ago. LeBron taking a snake bite. These NFL players, you name it, man. Political plotting, 2020 election, transit, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And that's why they're using these politicians like the New York lawmaker, Deborah Glick, saying that the earth has too many people. What is she really saying? She's saying that really She's further being used as a puppet of the wicked central bankers to justify why people that have refused to further bow down before the image of the beast in Revelation 13 and 15 by taking a snake bite are public enemy number one, and they must be eliminated. That's what they're really pushing, man, in a subliminal, slick way. Okay, so that's how they're further using politics, a part of the components, or constituents of their agenda. It says computer stress tests, tech companies like Jade Helm 2015. Okay, which goes into the building of quantum computer systems to monitor every aspect of people's lives, like Amazon's Alexa. You see that? That's why it was the brother Aharon Amath had brought that out, how there was an account where there was a man who ran into his home, right? And he heard Alexa repeatedly saying, "Your time is running out. Your time is running out." Now, Alexa's supposed to be some sort of friendly computer guide of information, worldwide information and aid, right? That's what they want. That's part of their agenda. They want people to believe in in bondage as a means of security. That's why one of the wicked elite said, "You will have nothing and you will love it." You see that? So this is what they're doing, man. So it says, and they have other events like Event 201 mentioned in this account here, in this information. Operation Lockstep, dealing with the lockdowns and the quarantines and all that. Project Pogo, Project Zyfler. Okay. Say, man, so this devil is finished, man. The Lord is further uncovering his wicked satanic counsel. It says, what if outcomes, think tanks, defensive, okay, blah, blah, blah. All right. Simulations contain clues telegraphing the elite's goals and intentions. What is it? What is their goals and intentions? Okay. To control the natural resources, commodities of the earth, so that people would seek the ruler's favor, like it says in Proverbs 29 and 26, man. Okay. So that's what they're doing. So that's why a record-breaking $22 billion worth of cargo, is currently stuck on within the container ships down in California. All right, because these docking ports, further confirms that America is Babylon the Great, prophesied in Revelation 18 and 12. Dealing with freight shipping and logistics, rather. Okay, of international trade and geopolitics. How that's going to further befall them. And you have other simulations like TTID, which is an acronym standing for Track, Trace, and Identify. You see? And that's why because they're looking to control everything through technology, military totalitarianism, okay, artificial intelligence, which I'm about to go ahead and bring out an article on Elon Musk's most recent humanoid development. But before I do that, I just wanted to bring out this article I took a screenshot of, where it says feds to release non-toxic particles, gases in NYC subway as part of terrorism study. You see that? Because they're using those non-toxic particles as a further DNA encoder down there to further track people. And this is how wicked this devil is, man. Okay? This is what he's doing. This is part of his agenda. It has nothing to do with the snake bite. The snake bite is just a component of his agenda. All right? Now, this is what I really wanted to get into. Jumping down here to Crimson. Let me go ahead and find that real quick. Crimson Contagion. From January to August 2019, it goes into the simulated exercise of this whole pestilence situation. They say started in China, which further uncovers, the funding of these devils' research of the outbreak down there in China to control it. Hence, Centers of Disease Control, to control the pestilence. Because who's the origin of the pestilence? Who brought pestilence over to America, when this place was once known as a paradise during the Spanish Inquisition? These devils coming from Europe, the bottomless pit in Revelation, the 20th chapter. These Edomites, man. That's why man Arthur Koestler got whacked by the wicked elite. Because in that book, 13th Amendment, 13th Tribe, he further uncovered the wickedness of these Amalekites. the top of the Edomite food chain, so to say, the top of the Edomite confederation and nation, and how they would wear their undergarments until they would disintegrate off their flesh. That's how wicked and vile and profane and abominable and filthy these Edomites are. And these are the people that are ruling the earth. Like my man Killmonger from Black Panther said, "And this your king?" You know what I'm saying? This nigga, he ain't shit, man. And that's that shameful spewing that's further defying his glory. It says here, the year before the pestilence, let me enlarge it, Salakia. The year before the pestilence, hundreds of mostly government employees participated in pestilence-like pandemic exercises. The 2019 simulation's dire scenario had 500,000 dying in 2 months. So in March 2020, when authorities rashly predicted 2.2 million Americans would die, no wonder Crimson participants were so ready to believe the pestilence pandemic was real. They had just lived through it. So they were coerced to believe it. And that's why, look up the symbol of this crimson contagion. It's further revealed as a a series of right here. It looked like a devil horns. Okay, symbolic of the serpent, which is Esau, Edom, that piercing Leviathan, that piercing serpent Leviathan, that snake, that conniving, subtle, pathological liar. Okay, they cannot be trusted by anybody. And that's being further revealed by the Holy Spirit. So you'll see here, crimson contagion and the image of it. Okay, it also appears to be, further revealing the vibration of their agenda in Revelation 13:18, 666. You know what I'm saying? Which you can see here through the Spirit. And crimson, goes back to the word crime. Tied into which the word crimson is as a synonymous with the word red. That goes into his name prediction. Edom. When his name was changed to Esau to Edom, okay, it was to symbolize his wicked vibration of existence. Okay, being red in appearance, his blood is translucent through his skin. Being a lover of bloodshed. You see that? A lover of war, that is. A lover of destruction. That's why the scriptures speak about him being a son of perdition. Okay? All right, the son of perdition, the man of sin. The red man. So not a coincidence, he named one of these simulated exercises after his name, Edom. Red. Crimson is red. You see that? And crimson goes back to the word crime. So everything is interconnected, man. So, and they have other simulated exercises like what was the other one? Dark Winter. Okay, when you go into it, it's somewhere in here. I might have passed it. Yup, Dark Winter. Let me see. Let me go up a little bit. Let me see. Yup, definitely passed it. Yup, Dark Winter. Okay. War gaming, a bioterror attack presaged the 9/11 anthrax attack. See that? That's why this devil, Sleepy Creepy Joe, has been mentioning. He's been mentioning when he mentioned Dark Winter during his presidential campaign. It was a psyop, man. Okay, it's predictive programming to push their agenda, to coerce the minds of the people to buy into their agenda psychologically through their satanic operations. And this cyber Polygon simulated exercises, goes into that. So I'm going to end it off on there. Just wanted to, briefly go into that, but it further uncovers who he is and what he's doing. Biblically said, biblically written. Okay. So see what other articles I may have wanted to bring. Oh yeah, artificial intelligence is one of them. Okay, they're using the failing and plummeting labor market, to further justify that aspect of their agenda through artificial intelligence. Okay, they ultimately want to replace it with machines. Right here, this is on SciTechDaily.com. It says orphan risk Elon Musk Tesla bot raises serious concerns, but probably not the ones you think. It says Elon Musk announced a humanoid robot designed to help with those repetitive, boring tasks people hate doing. Musk suggested that goes into working, especially now through the idea of and use of universal basic income, including stimulus packages, where they would further, unmotivated people to work, to further, cripple the labor market, to further negatively affect commerce, the ability to buy and trade, and overall the global trade market, through the supply chain crisis. Okay, which is why they were shutting down the cargo ports. Before, Sleepy Creepy Joe recently came out and said how they're planning on or thinking about opening them up 24/7 because they're controlling these resources. They're controlling everything. Because Big Brother is watching. Who's Big Brother? Prophesied in Genesis, the 25th chapter. Esau, Edom, the elder brother of Jacob. Because when he declared war on Jacob, that was to continue. That was a generational war he declared on our forefather. And that's why in Amos 1:11 said that Esau would have perpetual hatred. He would keep perpetual hatred towards his brother Jacob forever. And the descendants of Jacob are the so-called Black, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. Case in point, what is the point? He is using this agenda to negatively affect the tribes, who are the poor of this world. Okay, I'm going to get into that real quick and come back to this article. Now, I'm going to get into that real quick, and that's why Sleepy Creepy Joe mentioned how he's planning on deploying the National Guard to quote unquote help these resources. Let's go ahead and get that. All right, Sleepy Creepy Joe. It's on CNN. Sleepy Creepy Joe says he's considering deploying the National Guard to ease supply chain crisis. Now, the scriptures speak about never trust thy enemy. In order to never trust the enemy, one would need to identify the enemy. Who's the enemy of Jacob? Esau, including this devil. So when he says ease supply chain, that does not indicate that he's looking to help those who have been negatively affected by this agenda. Okay, including the poor of this world, that are rich in faith, rich in the spirit. All right, the nation of Israel, sanctified by YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI as a chosen holy nation. And these devils know that this paradigm shift is going to further lead them in their transition of rulership over to the rulership of YAHAWASHI and the Israelites. Because we are God's chosen people, and they're not. And that's why they're the vessels of dishonor. Because their agenda is a very dishonorable, wicked, vile agenda, lacking integrity, morality, empathy. Because this is the devil. Look at this devil. Look like a cold shell of himself. That's what they are. Okay. Sleepy Creepy Joe said Thursday evening he's considering deploying the National Guard to help ease stress on the U.S. supply chain as it prompts growing concern about the economy, prompting a White House official to swiftly throw cold water on the plan. Yes, absolutely, positively, I would do that, he said, when asked by the moderator Anderson Cooper during the CNN town hall in Baltimore if he was prepared to call up the National Guard. He said he would specifically consider calling up National Guard members for trucking to help solve a shortage of drivers if we can't increase the number of truckers, which we're in the process of doing. Now, who's responsible for a lack of truckers? By way of his announcement about a month ago, how employers of at least 100 employees would have to force their employees to take the snake bite. Who said that? And who further, negatively affected the global economies behind that? It's on naturalnews.com. It says Sleepy Creepy Joe's snake bite plan date could collapse trucking supply lines, leading to instant shortages of food, fuel, and medicines. And it further confirms that he was not behind that. He's just a puppet. Case in point, what did Henry Kissinger said? The same thing, oddly enough. Who controls the food supply controls the people. Who controls the energy can control whole continents. Who controls money can control the world. On behalf of this devil, Henry Kissinger. Who's another person who said this, doing biological warfare? My man, Charles Schwab, or Klaus Schwab, Slovakia. Okay, the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. One of the satanic councils of Cyber Polygon. Says, what is the globalist plan? Says the pestilence outbreak is the first big step towards unprecedented control over mankind on behalf of Klaus Schwab. See that? This is their agenda, all being further exposed in these last days. See? And their wicked intentions of doing this to control the natural resources and commodities of everybody is gonna further lead into this last world war, because these other nations ain't going for it, especially sovereign nations. Like what's his name? Mamor Bowser. He changed his name to Rothschild. Said, "Give me control of one's money, and I care not who prescribes their laws." Okay. And that's why they, back in 1913, signed the Federal Reserve Act into play to create the Federal Reserve System for that very intention, man, to control everything. Okay. So we here, man. So that's pretty much all I'm going to bring out. I believe the point has been made. There's a couple of more articles I think I'm going to bring out, but get back to the prophecies. Salakia. So this is back in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 5. It reads, "Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth to him all nations, and heapeth to him all people." Okay? And he's done this through his wicked satanic council and the constituents of it, politically speaking, geopolitically speaking, militarily and technologically, through artificial intelligence and the idea of transhumanism, the idea that one can be a god through Esau's technology. This is part of his miracles in Revelation 16 chapter, how he looks to further control the world. Okay, it's backfiring on him. Like it says here, Psalm 15:5. "He that putteth not out his money to usury, nor taketh reward against the innocent, he that doeth these things shall never be moved." And what is usury? Taxes. It's wicked as hell what these devils are doing. Okay, what they've done through the central banks, International Monetary Fund. Okay, taxing people. Creating a debt-based currency and attaching it with taxes so they can further control people through debt. Which is why in Rome he has something called debt forgiveness. You have the same thing now because this is Rome all over again. So going to this, the Hebrew word for usury, I believe it's nashak. It's nashak. Interest, usury. And that's what they do with their fractional banking and their loans and whatnot. Okay. So if I lend somebody $100 and I tell them you owe me $200, what kind of shit is that, man? This is this devil, Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man. Psalm 15:5. "He that putteth not out his money to usury, nor taketh reward against the innocent, he that doeth these things shall never be moved." And that's why he's being moved right now, because he's doing the very same thing that was commanded not to be done in this scripture, and he's doing it. Okay, hence why once again back in 1832, when the Kentucky Senator Henry Clay introduced that Defense American system through the protective tariff policy, it was control those quote unquote private industries from foreign competition and generate more revenue from those exports that are being taxed. Okay. With interest on them. All right. So to say, dealing with the correlation with money borrowing. You see that? So those same private industries were referred to as a private sector by this devil here in this article. All right here in this article. Okay, where he mentioned private sectors. Okay, the same thing that, so that the private sector that Wally Adeyemo had mentioned, okay, is the same thing that the Kentucky Senator Henry Clay had mentioned as private industry, a private industry. That's what these private sectors are. Okay, where these going into corporate fascism, how these different industries, are mutually involved with the feds and these other tech giants to federally regulate people. Okay, through the control of money, debt-based money, technology, science, politics. This is a part of their agenda, man. You see, and these other nations ain't going for it. You see, and that's why Russia is now looking at the EU smirking. And which is why when Vladimir Putin was down here, when Vladimir Putin had that little meeting with Sleepy Creepy Joe, he was smirking the whole time because he knows that America's finished. Okay, and that's why when they formed NATO to combat Russia, all right, around World War II, it backfired on them then. Okay, because when they signed this protective tariff policy into play, it was to further shield them from the likes of Mother America, Britain, and these other foreign competition, in a sense of geopolitics. And that, that further goes into the 10 toes further breaking apart then, further breaking the trust amongst these European conglomerate entities of America's power structure and dynamics. You see? Now Europe is looking at America like, oh, hold on, especially these European conglomerates of America, such as France, which is why France's Macron said, listen, we should think about deterring ourselves from military aid, regarding military arms. What does that mean? That's a declaration of war right there. Now let's separate themselves. Let's conspire warfare amongst them because they're looking to eliminate us. You see, as a part of 10 toes being further broken, then, I'm saying, that much more further in these last days, where these last few prophecies come to pass, man. Okay, how the EU and NATO are going to turn on the whore, America, Babylon the Great, prophesied in Revelation 17 and 16, and eat her flesh with fire. Of these thermonuclear warheads are going to shoot upon this bitch. Okay, because this is all prophesied, man. You see, and that's going back to why Russia ended the diplomatic ties with America for that very same reason. They can't be trusted. Okay. Now NATO said, listen, now we gotta go to war. We gotta conspire war with Russia. But you've been doing that. That's why NATO was signed into order, and Russia knows that. Especially Putin, man. You see. But that's all backfired against you Europeans and you devils in America. All right, you devils that operate through America, this major corporation, okay, of commerce and consumerism and corporate fascism and totalitarianism, dystopianism. You see, all the facets of wickedness are rolled into one, and that's why this place is going to be destroyed. Okay, that's pretty much all I want to bring. Let me go ahead and get a couple of more precepts. So let me get Exodus 22:25. If thou lend money to any of the people that is poor by thee, thou shalt not be to him as a usurer, neither shalt thou lay upon him usury. If thou at all take thy neighbor's raiment to pledge, thou shalt deliver it unto him by that the sun goeth down. You see? And they don't do that, even within the citizens within corporate America. They make us go a week, 2 weeks, and in some cases a month before we get our wages. And that's wicked as hell. But what does it say in Jeremiah 2 and 13? So they're doing the same thing to their own citizens. What more so these other nations, man? Jeremiah 2 and 13. For my people have committed Salakia. Jeremiah 22 and 13. Woe unto him that buildeth his house by unrighteousness and his chambers by wrong, that useth his neighbor's service without wages, and giveth him not for his work. Doing the same thing with us, okay, in corporate America. Okay, so what more so these other people? They're taxing these people through imports and exports. So what is it going to the word perplexity? Being in straits, by way of the lack of a result of a further result of a lack of resources. Why? Because this devil is dwindling them, man. Okay. So that's all been uncovered. That's going to continue to be uncovered, like in this lesson. So going back to Habakkuk 2 and 7. Matter of fact, continue. Habakkuk 2 and 7. Shall they not rise up suddenly? Verse 6, Lakia. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that layeth himself with thick clay? So that thick clay, and then going to the Hebrew word abatya, is debt. Which going to, America's debt of over, over $28.5 trillion in debt, about $29 trillion now. The federal budget is over $3.1 trillion in debt. Okay. As a further effect of their debt-based currency by way of the 1913 Federal Reserve Act, all right, controlling the commercial banks through fake money with interest attached to it, to control people through their debt. And then they to further pay off that debt, okay, they would place tariffs on these imports and exports which they did in the time of World War II, which further incited that war. And they're doing it in the Civil War as well, and they're doing the same thing now. Okay, because once again, trade wars always incite actual war, full-fledged war. And this full-fledged war is going to be the most devastating ever before, known to mankind. That's why the United Nations, what's his name? United Nations, one of the United Nations members said that this place is on the brink of catastrophic war like never before seen in 40 years. Roughly paraphrasing. Okay, let me see if I get that article real quick. Okay, Salakia. See if I got it here. All right, so let me see. Yup, right here. Humanity says apocalypse now on the sun. On the sun article. Apocalypse now, humanity on brink of nuclear annihilation with threat highest for 40 years, says United Nations chief in a chilling message. This is recently. And America is losing this arms race. So America has not only does America not have a shot in this last world war, because their own allies are coming against them by way of the greed, the covetousness and lasciviousness of this devil, Esau, Edom. But you definitely don't have a shot against YAHAWASHI and angels, pursuant to Revelation 12 chapter, because he's going to convert you into dust, man, like it says in Scripture. Okay. So Habakkuk 2:7, shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee and wake thee, that shall vex thee, and that shall be for booties unto them? Spoils of war. What you devil's going to be to these other nations. Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Okay. Woe to him. Woe to him that coveteth and evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. Okay, and that's why in Proverbs 15:25 it says that the proud house is gonna fall. And you devils are the very epitome of pride. When pride goes before destruction, the haughty look before a fall. Habakkuk 2:10, thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people, and hast sinned against thy soul. Okay. They said, 700,000 people have died by way of this pestilence, this global pestilence that they have concocted. So if this place was continuing to the year 2025, man, who knows hey man, who ain't no telling how catastrophic this place would be, including the fatality of people behind following this man's wicked ass counsel. And that's why YAHAWASHI mentioned in St. Matthew 24, I believe in the 12th verse, how if the days were not sped up by YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, there would be no flesh to be saved, man. Because this devil Esau is a mad scientist, man. All right. So Habakkuk 2:15, woe to him that giveth his neighbor drink, that putteth thy bottle to him, and maketh him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness. Okay, and that drink is really the wine of fornication. Okay, Western philosophy. So if we're neighbors, like you say, regarding the theme of America, liberty and justice for all, and how that suggests that the Most High should support all nations and creeds, and we're all supposed to be neighborly and sing kumbaya, except the alphabet mafia, which is an uproar against Dave Chappelle right now. We further confirmed that this place is modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, destined for destruction. And who's going to use who's one of the most notorious sovereign nations YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI is going to use to burn the glory of America? Modern day Sodom and Gomorrah in Isaiah the 13th chapter. Russia, the modern day king of the Medes, or the king of the modern day king of the Medes. Ruling that territory, being the Russians and their allies. China, Iran, North Korea. That's why they're leading America in this U.S. arms race, and America's losing terribly. So that further confirms this place is on the brink of destruction, man. Because these people are being put to shame, being revealed by believing in wickedness and following wickedness, like it says in St. Matthew 15:14, how the blind leaders of the blind will follow the blind, and the blind leaders of the blind will lead the blind into a ditch, death and destruction. Okay, for those who follow the current king of Babylon's favor and his rule, okay, will suffer his same fate, death and destruction, and shame before that. Verse 16, thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of Yahweh's hand, so like the cup of Yahweh's right hand, shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. Okay, so I'm going to get Isaiah chapter 14, verse 16. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms? The same man that did this, that further fulfilled this prophecy in 1945 around World War II, prophesied in Revelation 11:14, how he caused the nation to tremble, okay, through his miracles, splitting the atom, okay, splitting the atoms, creating that atomic weapon that destroyed about 10,000 Ammonite lives, so-called Japanese, in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But the nations are not trembling so much anymore. It's like his prophesied here. Is this the man? This guy? This decrepit joke of a monstrosity that calls himself a man? Him? The same one who can't fight, the same one who couldn't defeat the Native Americans in battle, who had to resort to biological warfare and other means of trickery and deception to take them down, to take down that mighty people. Him? The same one who can't even control his own house in regards to division within his own house, i.e. Republicans against Democrats, which is all, it's all controlled opposition, but nonetheless, still a omen of his downfall. Okay, conservatives against liberals and all kinds of madness, man. Him, the one who can't fight, the one who can't dance. This devil, the same one who can't control his own women. The same one who can't control the women within his own nation. Him? Well, we could take this nigga now, because now you devils are not the only ones who have these weapons anymore. Now these other nations have them now, and they're leading you in this arms race, man. Which is ironic because your blessing is supposed to be the sword. The might of this sword and the modifications thereof, including these ICBM missiles. Okay? But now you're losing your own fight because you're finished. Isaiah 14 and 17, that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners. All right. Verse 17, that made the world verse 18, all the kings of the nations, even all of them lie in glory, every one in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as a raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with a sword, that go down to the stones of the pit as a carcass trodden under feet. Because you're going to be destroyed in this last world's war. I'm going to end this off in 2nd Esdras 15 and 50. Verse 50. 2nd Esdras chapter 50. 2nd Esdras chapter 15, verse 50. And it reads, and the glory of thy power shall be dried up as a flower. And what is the glory of America? Wickedness, iniquity, sin upon sin. That's why in Psalm 64 chapter speaks about how this devil searches out iniquity through his heart, his mind, to further control the minds of those who then looking to target with this agenda. Okay? And that's why Sleepy Creepy Joe had called for the National Guard to be deployed to ease these economic woes through the supply chain crisis. Why? Because the same thing happened in Rome well over 2,000 years ago. I'm going to get into that. By way of this devil's blessing, the sword. Siege of Jerusalem. Okay. 70 AD. Roman military blockaded Jerusalem during the quote unquote first Jewish revolt, which we know this is a further fulfillment of Revelation 2 and 9, and Esau looking to further control the narratives and perpetrate the fraud that he's the people of the Most High. This is talking about the kingdom of Judah, so-called blacks. All right, you so-called black West Indians and Haitians. It says the fall of the city marked the effective conclusion of a 4-year campaign against the so-called Jewish insurgency in Judea. Jumping down to the point, they mentioned military blockade, so jumping down to the point. It says in April 70 AD, about the time of Passover, the Roman general Titus besieged Jerusalem, Since that action coincided with Passover, the Romans allowed pilgrims to enter the city but refused to let them leave, thus strategically depleting food and water supplies within Jerusalem. The Romans encircled the city with a wall to cut off supplies to the city completely and thereby drive the Jews to starvation. So oddly enough, what's happening now? What's happening now? Same goddamn thing. See this? They say they're gonna hold out people receiving these, these supplies, which will further affect the global economy if they don't get the snake bite. This is what they're saying. See this? U.S. Treasury says store shelves will retain empty until everyone gets a snake bite. See, so this devil is finished, man. This is because this is 70 AD all over again. Jacob's trouble is here, man. They're coming after us. They're coming after the children of Yahawah. They're coming after the children of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi due to insurrection of the saints. And 2nd Ezra, it's the 16th chapter. So this is who they're really targeting. Like that's why Psalm 83rd chapter speaks about how they would look to remove the remembrance of Israel from the earth. And this is why they have their G7 summits, the United Nations meetings, their different simulated exercises on behalf of Cyber Polygon for this purpose, to eliminate Jacob. 2nd Ezra 15 and 50. And the glory of thy power shall be dried up as a flower. That's iniquity. That's why Revelation 18 chapter speaks about how her sins reach the heavens. That's why the Lord is going to destroy America, Babylon the Great, with thermonuclear fire. All right. The destroying wind, that great millstone in Revelation 18 and 21. Okay. The conjunction of the concentrated heat from Yahawashi and the angels. All right. Through Yahawashi and the angels, concentrated heat of chariots, and the thermonuclear fire of these 200 million thermonuclear ICBM warheads, man. Says the heat shall rise that is sent over thee. Thou shalt be weakened as a poor woman with stripes, and as one chastised with wounds, so that the mighty and lovers shall not be able to receive thee. Like it says in Isaiah the 34th chapter, another precepts. Jeremiah the 49th chapter, how it speaks about how Boz will be converted into a desolation. And everyone who passes by there shall hiss at her plagues. That's what Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi is going to do, mainly through his main plague, that great millstone, thermonuclear destruction, and concentrated heat from the chariots. That destroying wind in Jeremiah 51:1 is going to dry up the glory of thy power as a flower in these last days, man. And we're getting close and close to it. Okay, so like it says in Joel 2:1, we're sounding an alarm for Jake. Okay, because salvation is for Israel. So that the people, our people that hear this word, don't have to partake in this terrible destruction from through the Lord's plagues of his righteous anger, his indignation. For those whose ears were preordained to hear, and whose eyes were preordained to see. So I'm going to end it off there, and pray that this lesson was further edifying as well into elect who came across it. And with that, above the ball, DTA, Kwame Ashala. I'm going to leave this off with a curse against Babylon the Great. May YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI barak Quadash babakasha shalak rayam wa nashim wa abadim wa haragim wa mashapadim alkal adiyawamim wa matazarium wa amalek wa babal wa Gawadim wa bibinawa babakasha tuwada timia tuwa. Aman. All right, shalawam to the elect, and on to the next one.